Hello and welcome to The Breakdown with Orla Shinawee.
And Greg Rutherford.
Oh, God. I really do need earplugs. That's getting louder and louder. You're not getting more welcoming. It's just getting more aggressive.
It's the only words I get to say in this thing. So might as well make them impactful, eh?
As we will discover, it is not the only words that you get to say. They are not the only words you get to say. Anyway, today's guest is a friend of Eurosport and Discovery, really, isn't she?
Fellow slider.
Fellow slider as well.
I wasn't really a slider. I should never really put myself in the same brackets as somebody of that level.
Well, you were a slider, though. You were both
I've been
in
down a track.
Team GB.
Yeah, I think Billy from Basingstoke's probably been down the track, went to the ski resort, so maybe I should.
Billy from Basingstoke, if you've been down a nice track, please do get in touch. You can put yourself in the same category as Greg Rutherford and our guest today,
No,
Amy Williams.
Not in the same category, though. No, she's an Olympic gold medalist.
She is an Olympic gold medalist. The first Team GB Olympic gold medalist in a Winter Olympics in 30 years. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, obviously, and the dedication that it took. And she's incredibly focused. She had a very different approach to her training and her sporting life than you did, Greg. But I also wanted to talk to her about her current life and being a working mum, how she juggles it all, because I find it nigh on impossible.
Yep.
All my balls drop on a daily basis. And I wanted to get some techniques from her, essentially, quite selfishly. She claims all her balls drop too, though, so I guess we're all in it together.
There's a lot of ball dropping. That's what we'll say about this one. Balls dropping all over the place.
Is that your contribution, Greg?
That's all I've got.
Thank you.
That's all I'm allowed to say. And that's what you said to me beforehand.
No, as I said, as you will hear, you have plenty to hear, plenty to say.
I've got plenty to hear, you're right, yeah.
Let's get to it, shall we? I think that's probably the best way. Here's the breakdown with Amy Williams. Amy Williams, welcome to our studio in Bath, which is usually used for cycling. If anybody's watching on the vodcast, you can probably see some cycling memorabilia behind us. But you've popped down the road to see us, so thank you.
I literally have. Yeah, it took me like 5 minutes to whiz down from my house, park up, and here I am.
Well, we're here for you. That's what this. We're here for you. Don't you worry, we'll keep doing this.
You make it sound like a counselling session.
Oh,
it's not going to be that dramatic.
It has been
actually. Yeah, we should warn you. How are you anyway? What have you been up to?
I'm all right. Well, about like half an hour ago, I was at like some kiddie play date, trying to get my kids to eat pizza. You know, like saying, right, Granny and Grandad are picking you up. I've got a bit of podcast. Not that they know what that is. But yeah, life feels like every day is just on that little hamster wheel of balancing mum life, admin, jobs, you know, PT stuff like this. But it's good, you know, can't complain. Just need a little breather, so I'm enjoying the fact that I get to sit in this chair for like an hour, you know.
we could just all be quiet for the next 45 minutes.
I get to sit still.
Have some
I think
peace.
as parents, we all know that as well, don't we? Just that time, just to sort of do nothing and just think and be quiet. It's rare.
Very rare. So thank you for having me, just to make me sit still for like
we
an
can
hour.
go for 6 hours. That's fine.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. That was one thing we wanted to talk to you about, though, being a working mum and all the things you have to juggle, because we have met before on our way to a
taxi.
Team GB.
Yes.
We shared a taxi randomly. But we were supposed to work together recently on the Beijing Olympics, and I couldn't go because of COVID in the house. But so I follow you on Instagram a lot, and I see everything you're up to. And I identify so much with all of the things, all the balls you've got to keep in the air. It's so hard. I know as a working dad as well, but I'm always intrigued as to whether it's different for working mums. And I guess you only know your version of it, but you do have to juggle an awful lot, don't you?
You do, and I mean, I look at you on Instagram thinking, oh my word, how do you do that with the, you know, the flights and all of that that's added in? But it's a juggle. My husband works really long hours. He's in the military, so he's out the door 6:30 in the morning. You know, it's me doing all the kiddie stuff. He doesn't come home till 8, 9 later at night, or for example, this week he's away the whole entire week. So you kind of almost got that single mum juggling everything. And I'm really lucky. I have my own personal training business that I do 3 days a week when I shove the littlest one into nursery. But then I'm trying to rush the oldest one, Oscar, who started school. He's in reception. It's like, okay, you have to get dropped off at nursery because my first client's at 8:15. I can't take you to school. And it's just a juggle. The kind of admin life, every minute of every day is normally accounted for. You know, the diary is just dung, 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 dung. How much can I squeeze in when I don't have 2 children or I just have the one? You know, like today I had one. So it's like, okay, I can do these 2 meetings with him with me. iPad's on overdrive, you know, and that one he could come with me because I'll push him and I'll have a walking, talking meeting. You know, before you know it, it's 5 to 3 and I'm the mum rushing and Oscar's waiting at his school, you know, peering over, where's mummy, she's late again.
This is what I think is so funny. The mums who are rushing to the school gate, you assume are the disorganised ones and are actually probably the ones who are trying to do 10 times as much as everyone else. Do you have any techniques that you've learned for that kind of discipline, though? Because you say that every minute is accounted for. And I remember when I was pregnant with my first child, and I was working in cycling even then, and Sir Dave Brailsford, who was the head of Sky at the time, now Ineos, said to me the key thing before becoming a parent, or like everything, is to have routine, to have everything in its place. So he was talking about nappy changing, for example. Make sure you've got the nappy changing station set up, you know where everything is, and make sure you're as organised as possible. And that must have lasted maybe a nappy and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And it's been, my eldest is now 7, and I've never managed to incorporate that discipline. I just haven't. Was
that given as advice? I just want to because what I find fascinating, anybody who's listening who's becoming a parent or is hoping to be a parent at some point, what people love doing, I found, love giving advice. And they love giving the most ridiculous advice. I remember we just had our first, and a photographer, we were doing something and he was going, what you need to do, I've had 6 of them. And when they cry...
6 children?
6 children he'd had.
Well, there's his problem.
Well, how he had 6 as well. And anyway, he was like, you just leave them in a room to cry, and they cry themselves until they stop. Eventually, after a few months, it works. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's borderline abuse. Like, it was some of the things that you get, and you get these just ridiculous things that people want to tell you. Where actually, I think probably the best advice ever was just don't listen to everybody else's advice.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most frustrating things. But of course, when you're working so much as well, I mean, from the point of view of the training set up and everything that you had as an athlete, did you find that was a massive bonus to understanding
100%.
how to put your day
Yeah, and even throughout my pregnancy, my births, I very much had my athlete hat on.
So in what way?
So, you know, my mantra as an athlete, control the controllables. Okay, pregnancy, I can't control it and what my baby wants to do and not do. The birth, I had my plan A. Or, you know, home, well, no, it wasn't home, but, you know, like a water birth, hypno birth, I did all my own little research. Plan B, okay, I might not be able to do that because that particular room in the hospital might be booked with someone else. Okay, plan C, and I think in the end, both my children were plan D, you know, like, but at every stage I was like, I can't control it. Okay, my kid's got other problems, you know, like, this has to be done, and you took the advice of the midwives, you know, so that was one, and I think definitely now being organised, like, I've already packed my son's bag for tomorrow, you know, in the 5 minutes I had before coming here, because I knew I'd be home late, and it's always a rush getting them all out early enough. So I'm like, okay, I've already done the littlest one's nappies, I've done the water bottles, I've put it all in, you know, I've laid out their clothes. So that's, I think, the old athlete. And yeah, for me, the nappy stations is definitely one. We have like one in our TV cabinet underneath, because you're always watching TV, whip out a nappy, happy days.
But
yeah.
do you like that level of discipline? Because for me, I like being not disorganised, but that level of discipline actually makes me feel quite anxious.
I always forget things. If I'm that organised, I always forget things. Now, I say as the athlete side of things, I knew what time I had to be at the track. I'd get there, I had to have my kit, and otherwise a bit of a nightmare.
You've got yourself to look after.
Exactly, that's what I mean. But then I think I'm similar to you in a way. I kind of actually like the manic couple of seconds of like, where are they? Where are nappies? No, they're in that cupboard. Okay, they're in that cupboard. Whatever else. Because often I say, similar, I have we have different places where things are kept. Never really, no. It's like wipes in one, nappies in the other, sacks in the, and it's just turns into a free-for-all. But I kind of like it.
But this is why I'm asking whether you like that discipline, because for me, I understand the concept of control the controllables, and it is that athlete mantra. But with kids, there's so little you can control unless you force yourself to be disciplined.
I'm weirdly both. So if you speak to my husband, he, Mr. Military Man, will think I am absolute scatterbrain, don't have a clue what's going on, leave things to last minute, much like all these books I have to read for this judging tomorrow. I've got like 3 books to read tonight. You know, so he thinks I'm absolutely off the rocket. He calls me a butterfly. I scatter from one thing to the next, and I'm doing like 5 things in the house at once. But then I'm like, well, why would I wait for the kettle to boil when I could be doing this and I could be doing that? And by the way, I've now forgotten the kettle to make a cup of tea, and you know, 20 minutes is last. So hearsay, I'm like that. And I think almost having
You're trying to condensely multitask everything.
Yeah, and almost having been retired as an athlete, I actually love being spontaneous, and I love not having the routine. And then I know in certain elements of life, you have to. And the only way I get through the day is being really like, okay, I have to look at my diary and what's happening now and what's happening here and alarms on my phone, otherwise I will forget. So I'm somewhere, to be fair, a mishmash of almost every one, depending on what the day is and what hat I've had to put on to which one of those people I can be. So everything.
So what do you get out of all of that then? Because obviously you've got to plan every single bit of it, and to come here you've had to set out your son's school bag for tomorrow morning. One thing that I always get told is that I try to do too much, and I think what's too much? What's anybody else's too much? If I have to get up at 4 a.m. to get as much done in the day as I want to get done, then that's my decision. And it's like with your husband saying you're the scatty one, but that's just by his standards. But what do you get out of a life that's like that?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
like, why do you need to get things done while the kettle is boiling is what I'm asking, because I'm the same kind of person.
Yeah, there is, I feel like there's too much to do. I'm trying to juggle motherhood and sort of almost being that full-time mum because of husband's work hours. I'm trying to juggle my PT business. I'm trying to juggle, daily life admin of being a mum of a family. I'm trying to juggle all other admin that comes in from, being an ex-athlete, podcast to interviews to setting up other work, TV work. I've had my book that I've done recently, so that was a lot of admin. So you almost feel like you've got all these different things that you need to do, and there's never enough time to do it all, because like you say, something unexpected might happen, or you're at that play date for an extra half an hour because you're trying to do it for your kids, but now I'm in a rush for the next thing, or something takes a little bit longer than expected. So the knock-on effect of that could be a little bit drastic, but, it's not life or death, but, it does have a knock-on effect. And I think maybe the athlete, you're so used to being busy. You're so used to always having something on. And I just want to say yes to everything. I don't know how to say no because I want to please everyone. And people always call me, I'm the pleaser. I want to say yes to keep everyone else happy. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's another mad week. Oh my goodness, look at next week. How am I going to fit it all in? And then I regret saying yes. Like, my new thing is just to try and say no more and just say I'm just too busy. Sorry.
Have you tried to say no?
Well, actually, one of my PT clients actually bought me a book, which for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about less is more. Start saying no. Only got about 3 pages in. It's on the side of my bed.
Exactly. Did you find it easier to say no, though, as an athlete? So,
I think
because obviously it is so pro. I mean, like, you knew where you were training each time. If you're going off to a competition, whatever it might be, Olympics, whatever else. Could you then say no a lot easier, or did you maybe have people to say it for you?
No, I think there wasn't anything else to say yes to. I was very much, before that Olympic medal, my life was just training, eating, sleeping, training, eating, sleeping. There was nothing else to say yes to. I was so dedicated, so structured. I didn't. Winter sports, we didn't have all the exposure in the lead up, so I didn't have all these other things to do, or, sponsors, interviews. I walked away. I didn't do any of it. For me, it was like, do the best, concentrate on your training, and then if you do well in the competition and you get success, that stuff will come afterwards. So I think it was just, I was just blinkers on. That's it. I'm an athlete. I'm doing what I need to do. Don't need to do anything else.
So would you say it's easier than being an athlete than it is a working mum?
But easier being an athlete.
I've never been an athlete, but I know the answer to that question.
Well,
I would say everything is a bit easier than being a working mum.
Yeah, so much easier.
But it's one of those things, isn't it? People listen and just think, well, I could never be an athlete, all that hard work, everything else. But actually, and I would agree, like, it's far easier just worrying about yourself and everything else, just as a dad. And I know generally when the mum's predominantly involved, the children generally lean towards mum, etc. I mean, it's a lot better now. I'm around a lot more. But it's I would say, and people might say I'm wrong, I would definitely say it's harder for the mum than it is the dad.
Why?
Well, I think in general, funny enough, I talked about this on a well-being podcast about men's mental health and things as well, and about being able to step away from it. It seems, and studies would show, that men find it easier and are less guilty about stepping away from their children to take time for themselves, be that 10 minutes or an hour, whatever it might be. Whereas studies are showing that women constantly feel guilty about it, which is a very difficult thing to get with. And I completely and utterly understood it straight away. I was saying, if I want to go for a run, there's no guilt from me while I'm running, because the thing is, while I'm there, I'm very present, of course, and whatever else. And I see that as, that's fine. But I think it's also important that it's done for everybody to take time.
Absolutely. You shouldn't be taking that away from the dads. You should be giving it to the mums, essentially, or telling mums it's okay, and not only okay, but necessary to take time for yourself.
Go and do it. Yeah.
It's funny, I saw this thing on Instagram earlier. We're recording this the day after Mother's Day in the United States, and an American actress had posted a picture saying how for Father's Day the dads go off and play golf with the boys. For Mother's Day, you're supposed to spend the day being delighted by having watercolours painted for you by your 3-year-old. And that is it in a nutshell, isn't it? That motherhood is supposed to be enough of itself. Whereas a dad doesn't just become a father, he's a man who has children, I guess. It's maybe slightly different, I don't know, and there might be lots and lots of dads, and single dads in particular, who'll be listening to this and will say, absolutely, I do all of the work, or I do most of the work, or whatever, but
fair play
I'm being quite reductive. But going back to what you're saying about being an athlete and how it was train, eat, sleep. This is where sometimes I struggle listening to podcasts with elite athletes, and to go back to what you said about controlling the controllables, I find it really difficult to find lessons from that I can apply when I have 100 different things going on a second. How do I take the time to concentrate on those few things that I can control when everything feels like it's falling outside of my control?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's really hard. But I think when I'm in a situation, or let's just say, you're about to do a presenting role, like we've just worked together, haven't we? And Eurosport, okay, I can only do the amount of research that I've got time for. I'm not going to stress then, like whatever comes out my mouth is the best that I can do in that moment, because physically there weren't any more hours to do it. Or, okay, I control the fact that I'll wake up an hour earlier. I'm not going to do any more, because otherwise I'll be knackered and shattered. Like I'll do 1 hour earlier to do that extra hours of research, and then that's what I can control. So I kind of had that sort of mindset that I'm not every decision, but I think if there's a moment that you're stressed about something and anxious, then I tell myself, because I do get quite a lot of anxiety now, and I feel stressed quite a lot because I, am juggling, and then I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. What can I do in this situation that I can make it better? Okay, well, I can't control that and I can't control that, so I'm going to do this, and then I'll be happy that I've done that.
Okay, so another way of looking at that, I guess, would be concentrate on what you can do.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the controllables, and you're saying, I don't have enough time to do all the research, I would think, well, that should be within my control. I should be able to do all of the research.
Yeah.
But actually just concentrating on what you can do and doing that well.
Yeah.
It's realistic expectations, isn't it? That's the thing. And it's similar to what we spoke to Chris Hoy about, really, wasn't it? It's exactly that. It's understanding that, yes, you might hold yourself to very, very high level and you want to be as perfect as you can. I think as humans, we generally do, don't we? We want to be perfect, but you can't be. So it's then accepting that actually at that time, if you are 10, 20, 50%, in my case, unprepared and panicking ever so slightly with certain things, just appreciate and understand that your high levels of expectation are probably way above what's needed, and what happens. And we see it everywhere, don't we? We compare everything we do. I mean, we talk about this a lot. I watch back bits, or if we're getting ready to prep for this sort of stuff, I'm like, I hate the sound of my own voice. You wouldn't believe it by listening to this. But
you recover very well, Greg.
But it's those sorts of things that you start to realize you can't stress about them, you can't worry about them. You have to actually just, again, control the controllables and have maybe lower your expectations a little bit on one level. It's good to have these internal ones and set the bar as incredibly high.
But be okay with not getting there.
Don't always use that as the barometer.
I want to jump onto something you just said, Amy, because as soon as somebody says this to me, I think, I want to learn how they deal with that. You say you have anxiety, or you stress out a lot. Anxiety is something I didn't realise I had, remarkably, until last year. And it's something I've had all of my life, and I deliberately don't say I suffer from it, because I don't always suffer. It's brought me an attention to detail, a level of perfectionism, a restlessness that I channel into projects an awful lot that I'm very grateful for. But do you feel stressed or do you have anxiety? Do you know, is there a difference?
Well, this is the thing, like, I didn't think I did, and maybe when you do read other people's Instagram posts or whatever, as an athlete, I don't think I did because, like you say, you were so in this different mindset. But I think now, as what I think is just a crazy working mum who's scatterbrain, I do feel like I get a bit stressed and anxious. And I know for me, I suffer with IBS, and I know, okay, that gets way worse, and that's definitely led by stress, anxiety, when I'm feeling underprepared, when I haven't had time to put into research or a job or even getting here. I was like, oh my goodness, what were you even talking about? Oh, well, it doesn't matter, like, who cares? You know, and then I do feel like my husband, my parents would probably say, you know, I'm more aware that I get more snappy. I definitely feel like I'm a bit more snappier with the boys. I'm probably a bit more harsher with Craig, my husband. And it's only like, oh yeah. And I reckon that's because I'm feeling stressed and anxious and worried and I'm not prepared. And that's when I realise, okay, take a deep breath, lower my expectations. 100% you're just expecting too much from yourself, and then I have to have a little talking to myself and just take some deep breaths, normally when I'm on the toilet or something.
Yeah, it's the only time
and I realise I wake up and my shoulders are up here and I'm clenching my jaws and I'm like, okay, deep breaths, take 3 big deep breaths and just lower everything down and not worry about things so much. So
I want to correct you on something, Amy, which is remarkable and ridiculous of me to do because you're talking about yourself, but you just called yourself a crazy, scatty mum. Who's disorganised. Yeah, but
at the start of this podcast,
but you're an Olympic champion. You've got your own business. You've got 2 children who you mother mostly by yourself because your husband isn't with you. That is remarkable what you're achieving. That's not how you see yourself, is it? Crazy, scatty mum.
Well, I don't know. At the start of this podcast, I'm like, yeah, actually, that is probably what I'm absolutely like. I don't know, like...
Maybe this is a therapy session. I mean, you need a talking to.
Yeah, no, you know, I kind of look back and I think, oh, I'm actually really proud of what I've done, what I've achieved, and actually the fact that I do this, and I'm about to launch another business, actually, which my business partner was like, oh, yeah, don't forget, we're kind of like doing a little Instagram tweet at 7. I was like, oh, I'm running a bit late. Okay. So it's another little side hustle that I've been working on. So, yeah, when I look back, I think I actually do a lot. And you talk to other school mums and... You know, you speak to someone who's like, oh, well, I don't even work and I struggle looking after 2 kids.
I mean, that's the hardest job in the world.
And then you kind of think, well, yeah, actually, I do quite a lot and, you know, do many things. And, you know, I'm prepping to work away on the Isle of Man for 2 weeks with the TT. And it's like, okay, well, my husband's taking a week off work so he can look after the boys for the first week because it obviously coincides with half term. And then the second week, my parents step in and I couldn't do any of it without my parents. You know, they're now at home babysitting now so I can be here and they are a godsend. So somehow we all just blag it and muddle through and I managed to do everything, you know, that I do thanks to them.
I think we are all just
I was going to say, I'd say that's like most people in the world. Like, I don't think you should ever consider that as, scatty or whatever else. I think that's just most humans.
But so many of us do put that on ourselves, I think. Or maybe it's a female thing, I don't know. Do you...
No, definitely. Look, there's definitely times, I think everybody, no matter who you are, what you're doing, especially when children are involved, where it becomes stressful and... you might want, for a better word, scatty, but I think when you stop and actually look at it with everything that's going on, goodness me, absolutely not.
And maybe that's an important thing for everybody to do every now and again. You know, I had this day recently. I mentioned getting up at 4 a.m, but my husband was going out of the country for work. My kids were in half term, or my oldest anyway. My youngest goes to nursery just twice a week. So I had them to myself all week. I don't know how many deadlines I had to meet. So I was setting my alarm for 4 a.m. to get a morning's work done before breakfast time. Yeah. And then I was wheeling along and sent our friend of the podcast who's sitting here, Belle, that I was cycling along with my kids later in the afternoon. And I thought, this is a bit like life. If I stop pedaling, I'll fall off. You know, I just keep pedaling. And I got to the end of that day, and for the first time in years, I think, I sat down and went, I'm really proud of myself for getting through today. But that was just ticking off life stuff, really. It was getting work done, looking after the kids, making sure I didn't try to not lose my patience with the kids. And I thought, no, I'm going to reward myself for this. I'm going to thank myself for this.
Yeah, but people should. But this is the big thing, isn't it? Every day shouldn't be a day to create something remarkable. It should be actually getting through what is life in general. And I think if you can get out the end of each day and it's been a success because you've completed it well. Like, absolutely give yourself a pat on the back to have a glass of wine, but in your case not. But it's one of those things that...
Take an extra 5 minutes of meditation.
Exactly, the deep breathing. But it's one of those things that because there are so many external inputs that you can tap into at any point, and it would flicking on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be. Instantly, as what is a successful day to you, you then go, oh, it's not because they did that.
Yeah.
Rubbish, really. People have to learn to start switching off from that, because I think it really is detrimental to so many.
I'm always harsh. Oh my God, I haven't posted today on Instagram. I haven't done this. Oh my goodness, they've done that. And then my friend actually sat the other day and was like, but what do you want from it? Do you need more work? Do you want that? I was like, well, we all want more work, but could I fit it in? No. So she was like, well, don't worry about it.
We're programmed to think we need to want more.
And I think, you know, what you're saying about being happy with what you've done, like the sports psychologist that I worked with just before the Olympics was like, Amy, you're always moving your goalposts. Your aim for this race was to come third. Mm-hmm. You've come second and you're still not happy because you're telling me you could have done X, Y, Z. You should pat yourself on the back because you got the result you wanted. And I think we're very programmed into never taking a breath, saying, I did everything that I wanted to do today or whatever, pat myself on the back now and be happy. Because no, you're always looking to achieve more, or yeah, rubbish, I didn't do a post, or yes, I still haven't done that. And I think maybe that's a British thing, maybe it's a mum thing, maybe it's a little bit of everything, that you're always trying to push yourself and strive for more and more and more, instead of just being happy the fact that you got through the day, you ticked off everything in your diary to whatever level, and now be happy for it.
So after, we've got to touch on it, of course, after becoming Olympic champion then, and if we look back at what a remarkable time that was that for you very easy then just to sort of say, oh, I've done that now, was there not a part of you that was like, I've got to go back out there now, I've got to go, right, exactly, within that context?
Well, it's funny because even after the Olympic race, I spoke to my coach and I was like, oh crap, I still didn't do whatever corner properly. You're like, oh, and you're still straight away, like, analysing your run that you just did of the bits that you still didn't quite get right. And he's just like, who cares? You've just won. So I think it's just that athlete nature is you're always looking for feedback. You're turning negatives to positives. You know, you're always looking to see how you can improve.
Or positives to negatives in that case.
Yeah. So, you know, but I think, half of me was like, okay, I've done it. That was what I knew I could do. And I did it when it mattered. And, you know, I ticked all my boxes. Great. And then you're like, well, actually, I still know now I could be a better athlete. I've nailed it. I know my formula. I know what works for me. Everything was working towards that one moment, these 2 days of racing in that 4-year period. And I did it. Great. Now I can keep going. And then, you know, for me, yes, I took a bit of time out. I did keep competing. And, you know, politics, this and that, equipment, technology, coaching, everything did fall apart. And I guess for me, it was like, actually, I don't need to do this anymore. You know, my body was falling apart. I was in pain every day. And I just sort of reassessed. And along with everything, it was like, actually, no, I can shut the chapter on this and go to the next chapter. Even though half of me, I truly believed I could go to the next Olympics and win a medal. I truly believed that. But everything wasn't working anymore for numerous reasons. And so, I decided, okay, I can walk away and switch to the next thing.
So how do you make your peace with walking away from something when it's not working? Because I think so many of us can get stuck in that rut, whether it be a job, a relationship, a situation where you think, I know this isn't right for me, and I could keep going and I could make it right. I can work harder at this. I can make the job work. I can make the relationship work. But how do you get to the point where you think, I've got to be comfortable with saying, I've tried hard enough at this right now, and be brave and shut the door on it and say, it is what it is, but I need to move on to something else now? Because that's really hard in life.
It's really, really hard. And it took me, oh my goodness, well over 4 years or more to stop feeling almost the pain from it.
After retirement?
Yeah.
Wow.
But interestingly, success helps though.
Long time.
From the point of view of saying, obviously, if we take it into a sporting sense, what you often find, there's a lot of athletes that hold on way too long, or sportsmen and women across all the different sports, because they're desperate for that moment. I'd say for us, we're very lucky that we had that moment. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work that goes into that, like, of course, but I definitely would say then there has to be, for anybody who's had the absolute pinnacle within sport, once you can start reasoning with yourself slightly, then it makes a bit more sense. And you touched on something there, and it's just something you said very quickly. You realise you didn't need to do this anymore. And for me and you, on a level, because we had very, very similar ends to our careers in that way, it's definitely easy. It hurts like no tomorrow. I mean, like stepping away from the thing that you are, what you did, what everybody around you defines you as well. It's not just you. Everybody that looks at you, guy did long jump. You're the one that whizzed down on the tea tray, as everybody loves to say.
Yeah.
It's those moments. So it's very, very difficult. But as I say, if you've had a level of success, that must have been there. So at that point when you're going, do you know what, I don't need this anymore, you then get to think about that moment of becoming an Olympic champion again. So then you can see, do you know what, actually there's got to be more out there. And I think what I want to ask as well is that feeling you had when you became Olympic champion. And if you, I do with me saying be honest about it, but what was the overriding feeling? Because I think often people have different experiences and different feelings when they get that moment. And I'd be interested to know, with things that have been going on around the sport, your journey to it, etc., the journey of the sport itself, and knowing there was a bit of pressure on you as well, because my understanding was that funding wouldn't have carried on within the sport unless you won as well. So what was that feeling like when you find out you're Olympic champion with everything that's going on around
First
it?
gold for GB in 30 years in a Winter Olympics.
Yeah,
It's quite big.
I mean, number one, it was just relief. Relief for me, because I knew I could win. I was always dubbed training champion by my coaches. I'd broken track records. I'd beaten every other athlete on all the different tracks. Races, I was always second, third, fourth, but always the fastest in training on 1 or 2 runs. We get 6 runs to learn a track. And so for the Olympics, I'd won a silver medal the year before in the World Cup. Okay, this track suits me. It's my style of track. I'm fast on it. And then when it came to the Olympics and in the 6 training runs, I was putting down, I'd have to go back through timesheets, but I nailed at least 4 or 5 of the fastest runs. Okay, I can win, but never did that ever enter my brain, because I kind of almost said to myself, oh, but you're always training champion. Almost those negative thoughts were always there. And so for me, it was relief. I mean, every moment of my life, of every second for 4 years, having missed out on the Turin Olympics 2006, is this going to make me go to Olympics, yes or no? Every single decision of every life, of every day was that. And so I kind of really, to win and for my coach to say you're Olympic champion was just, finally, I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it. I've done it, finally. So that was the first relief, feeling. And then, obviously, pride, you're so proud of yourself, for your family, your friends. They're the only real people who know what has gone into your life as a top athlete. And then obviously for the sport, we knew someone, male or female, had to bring home a medal for the funding, the money that had gone in, the research, the development, and all of that side of it. We had to bring home a medal for the sport to stay alive. Yeah. So that was a really big, okay, I've done it. And one of the guys on the team came up and was like, oh, thank goodness you've done it, because the pressure's off us now.
Am I right in thinking that somebody said it, sort of had the conversation where they basically said,
yeah,
you need to win us a gold medal here?
Well, it was sort of amongst the whole team. When, every sport has to give its medal tally, don't they? You're meant to bring home 1, and swimming say they're going to bring home 6 and whatever. So we knew we had to bring home a medal from those games in Vancouver for skeleton to keep the funding into the sport and to keep the next programme going. Was
that a point of conversation within the team and the village and stuff? Because that is look, I mean, anybody who knows anything about winter sport, which Great Britain obviously isn't the powerhouse of winter sports. We know that because, I mean, we're lucky if we get a snowflake each year, to be totally honest. So the fact that sort of pressure's being put on, was that something that was openly being talked about and a cause of concern for people?
No, I mean, I don't remember it ever being, it was there. We all knew the numbers whenever, training camp beforehand or whatever. So it was just always there in the back of your head. But you forget about that because you want to win a medal for you. You want to do your best performance.
You've got that
so
pressure
for me, I
couldn't
care less what anyone else wanted to do or achieve. I know I can win a medal. And, as days go on, you're like, I know I can win a gold medal on this track. And I'm doing everything possible because I know secretly, deep down, I can do this. So for me, it doesn't matter what all that external pressure is, because obviously, you want to win a medal for your country and for the team and everyone, but you do it for you. and you perform for what you know you can perform. And, you know, I, hand on my heart, truly believed I worked harder than any other athlete in that field of every day. And, you know, I wasn't always the most confident athlete. And confidence was something I really had to work on. And even now, you know, I'm not the most confident presenter. I'm not the most confident person. But then I have to get my confidence from that controlling the controllables, making sure, okay, well, I've prepped in the only way that I can with the limited time. Or, you know, for me at the Olympics, I've done every single tick box of every day, every decision for 4 years. So me standing on this start line is going to be my very best performance. And then whatever I come is my very best. Thankfully, it was gold. But yeah, that's the way I had to cope and mentally have that kind of mindset.
I find it really interesting and a little bit sad, if I'm totally honest. And I get this a lot when I speak to elite athletes, whenever you say that the first emotion and the overriding emotion, when you have lived and breathed this one singular moment for 4 years, and at the end of that process, at the end of all the sacrifice and the hard work and the sleepless nights and the stress and the lack of confidence, the overwhelming feeling is not euphoria and joy and happiness. It is just relief. And I feel like that's really important for the rest of us to realise sometimes, because, and I don't mean when we're looking at elite athletes even, I mean when we're living our own lives, because I think sometimes you guys are lucky in a way. I know it takes such an amount of hard work, because I could never be an elite athlete. But you've got this one thing you're able to focus on. And this is where I think most of us struggle in life. You don't have one target. You've got 100 different targets. But we've got this one thing and we think, if I get that, that'll make me happy. If I get that, that'll make me happy. If I get that pay rise, I'll be happy. If I get that job, if I get that car, if I get that house. But it's never the realization of the goal that actually makes you happy. So unless you're enjoying getting there, the goal in itself becomes a little bit pointless, other than to say that you've done it. Yeah. That's not to say that your gold medals are pointless.
Thanks, all.
But they do. You're welcome. Just that reassurance for you, Greg. But you think it's going to bring you all of these things and all of this wonder and your life will change, and it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time, you know, it's the relief first, and I think it takes many days, weeks and years. I mean, I think it really truly hit me that I had won a gold medal 4 years later, commentating at the next Olympics, standing on that, you know, on the track side with that, you know, mic in my hand, thinking all these athletes here are striving for a medal. Oh yeah, I've got one at home. You know, it took me 4 years, and I found those Olympic Games the most emotional ones. I mean, you saw me. I'll well up at every Olympics, summer or winter, any big sporting event, to see someone achieve their goal. I get really emotional, because then you're like, yeah, I did that. But it did take quite a long time for that process, and for you to suddenly be happy with yourself that you did really well. Because I think it just doesn't naturally come, and I think that is an athlete thing, isn't it?
I think it's a human thing, really. I do. I think it's human.
Pushing
to never recognise what you've actually achieved, in whatever it is, whether it's getting to the end of the day and ticking off your list or whatever. I do want to go back to what you were touching on with regards closing the door and all of that, because as you said, Greg, you've got that success to fall back on, so it's almost easier to close that door. But when I'm thinking of anybody listening and thinking of a situation that they maybe feel like they're getting to the end of and closing the door and being brave and going off to do something else, is there anything you've learned from your experience of thinking, I could keep going, but I'm not going to. I've got to accept that I'm done with that now, move on to something else. What have you taken from that?
Yeah, I mean, oh, crikey, it's definitely hard, and sometimes it's clear cut and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you want to just keep that door a little bit open. But I think it is just looking outside. What are your interests? What can you do? Is there something you can cross over those skills? Is there a transition? Is there another passion that you've always had alongside your sport that you just had to sort of stop? You know,
but I don't mean just in sport. I mean in everything. I mean in looking at one situation that you think that I've come to the end of the road in that situation, and I've got to move on to something else.
I mean, for me, it's just giving everything a go. You know, for me, it really, truly is. You don't know if you're good at that next thing until you're giving it a go. And if you're rubbish at it, you're rubbish at it. Find something else. And so that's always been my little mantra. Maybe that's why I say yes to everything when I just start saying no. But I think until you've given it a go, how do you know what you're missing out on or what you could be really amazing at? So yeah, I really truly believe, you can have so many different skill sets, and I think an athlete has so many transferable skills that you don't know what else through that next door you could be super good at, or what other people think you're really good at that you just maybe never would have even thought of. So yeah, for me, I'm like, give it a go.
Well, it's part of that.
What can go wrong?
It's not listening to the what ifs too much, isn't it? I think, and that's for every single person, irrespective of sport and whatever else. I think it's very, very easy for people to straight away go, oh yeah, but what if? What if I move on to the new thing? But what if? I think you have to in life. You have to take chances, and you have to be prepared to sacrifice certain things, and you have to give up certain things in order to enrich yourself and carry on going forward, to give yourself an opportunity to learn new skills and develop yourself. And fundamentally, if something isn't feeling right anymore, or isn't working, or is coming towards the end, I don't think there's very many times in history where sticking with it works.
Okay, so is it giving yourself a bit of tough love in that case?
I think
and looking at a situation
honesty,
and saying, I've got to be genuinely honest about what works and what doesn't. I like to write lists and pros and cons of things. I don't know if that works, if that's just a bit childish, but I'll, if I'm going to, I moved countries 3.5 years ago, what's the advantage of staying here? What's the advantage of going? I had no idea. But once I've seen that, I've got a bit of a reassurance, at least that I've thought about it.
Yeah, for me, it's always listening to that gut feeling. At the Olympics, we had all these different, money had gone into research for the runners. So it's like the metal runners it's like the tyres on a car. And I was being pushed and pushed to use this certain pair that all this money and research had gone into, but we hadn't had enough time to train on them. I wanted to use my Goldie oldie favourites that I slide on all the time, that I know how they work. I know what me and the sled do together. And it took a lot of guts for me to be like, I am not using them. I don't feel comfortable. I'm using these ones. But it came down to that gut feeling, for once in my life, I'm going to speak up and say what I truly believe in. And since that moment, and I know I would not have won the race if I had gone on the pair that I was being pushed to go on. And since that, I always listen to my gut.
It's so, why is it so hard to listen to your gut though? Why is it so hard to follow through on that?
Because everybody listens to the if buts
the
and maybes,
noise all around it.
And that's the problem, because for everything in your gut that's saying, do this, there's something in your head as well saying, oh yeah, but what if?
Because your gut is often going against perceived logic. That's the problem, isn't it?
And that's probably one of the most difficult things that we do, especially when you have safety around you, say, be
or
it
it's going
for
against safety,
a job or whatever else, and you're thinking, I hate this, I'm miserable, but it's covering the bills or whatever gives me security in that way. And of course, it's a really difficult thing to say, just quit and move on to something else.
We're not saying that. But don't leave your partner, don't start a new job just because we've said it.
No, completely. But again, similar to what you're saying, it is about weighing up. Now, obviously, I think the other thing you always have to sort of be quite firm as well. Don't just go and do something completely random that you have no idea what you're doing. Don't give up your life and just go
to be a circus clown.
I'm just going to go and do this, and you realise there's no circuses anit'll you're in trouble a little bit.
You could start a new band of travelling circuses.
Is this what we're doing now? This is what this is.
Do you think? I think we'd be quite good at it though. I learned to juggle a little bit in lockdown.
I'm going to leave now and make a start on it. No, but it is one of the, isn't it? I think it gives an opportunity for, again, more of your brain to get involved and say maybe you shouldn't, but actually really being methodical with everything that you're doing and really weighing up what's going on as well. Because as we said before, if you're unhappy doing something, you have to start making some form of change in order to try and get, because you only have one life. Well, it's what I know some people listening will believe in other things, but you've got to enjoy what you've got while you're here. And if there's small changes that you can make to give yourself more enjoyment, go with it, do it, because fundamentally it's 70 years old, 8 years old,
if
or
we're
whatever.
lucky enough to get that far,
of course, you don't want to be looking back and going, oh well, I lived out my entire life miserable because I stuck to the same thing. You want to talk about the incredible experiences you had, and I think that comes from having that ability that obviously you're talking about, Amy, of just being able to do certain things that you want to do to make that outcome better. Choosing runners on the day gives you an Olympic gold medal. That's how fine it can be. And stepping away or walking away from a scenario that you're not happy with, you might bump into somebody that might change your life. You never know.
Sliding doors.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you about the book that you've got in front of you, Amy. This is a book that you've written, Talent to Triumph.
Third baby.
And this is, I love that. This is speaking to lots of different athletes about how they've managed to turn talent to triumph. And this is one of my obsessions, of course, is how to take what you're born with and make that into a success. And I basically want you to download all of your book that will make people go and buy it, not to replace it. But I want you to download all of your learnings, please, onto my brain. Tell me how to be a success, please.
Well, look, I'll leave this with you. I mean, basically...
What are the biggest lessons that you would take away from having written that?
Yeah, so I wrote that mostly for the teenage athletes, the ones that are really passionate about, I mean, yes, sport, but you could take all of these lessons to ballet, to science, to maths, whatever it might be.
To the whole, everybody should get it.
Yeah, basically, everyone will buy
should get
it.
it.
But no, I mean, it's for that athlete wants to learn, how do I make that little edge? How do you make those 1%? How do I control my mindset? So yeah, it's my story. It's from my notes and my psychology notes that I made out through my career, and particularly around the Olympics. Yes, it's got my story through, but it's not an autobiography. It's tips, tools, yes, quotes from summer Olympians, winter Olympians, my quotes and theirs sort of coming together. So, I know, yeah, how do you cope with teammates? How do you cope with fear? I've got coping strategies. How do you deal with the negatives? I'm going to stop you there.
I want the coping strategies.
Just in there. Oh, crikey. Yeah, no, like...
Well, because I've happened to open this up, as you mentioned, mindset, right? Yeah. So this is serendipitous. I opened up and the chapter is mindset. There you go. So there's a reason that's happened. And you start this by saying, can you change and improve how you frame certain situations? Can you learn to deal with success and failure in a way that improves your performance? And Amy, this speaks to my soul. The answer is yes, you can. And it's equally as important as your physical training. You say you'll learn how to work with the uniqueness of your own mind, how to manage your nerves, how to think logically rather than emotionally. Tell me please.
So, I mean, I purposely in there put in like PDFs, like worksheets. They're my drawings from my own psychology book that I've put in there that you can scribble on. Yeah, so let's just say you're, for me, for example, I went through a phase of concentrating too much on the other girls. What are they doing? What warm-up are they doing?
This is funny.
What stretches are they doing? Why are they 0.1 second faster than me down the track? Why am I training champion and not on racing? And eventually it's like, okay, stop thinking about them. They are not making you faster. They are not lifting your weights in the gym faster. They are not you lying on your sled. They are probably looking at you. And just simple things. Okay, so I'm sat in the changing room. Don't look at what the other people are doing. It doesn't matter what they're doing. That's not going to affect your performance. And if it does, it's going to be negative. So, okay, what little strategies and tips can I do in the changing room scenario to stop myself looking? Okay, well, actually, I might have a reading book with me. Might have a little puzzle book. I'm going to have my plan of how I'm going to do my warm-up. I might have music on. I might sit next to the coach or actually a teammate or someone from another nation or country. For me, it was my Aussie friends. Let's have a little chin wag then. You know, whatever it was, positive, negative, that you can switch those negative thoughts into a positive one to make you perform better. And so I've just got little things from everything. I mean, there's 10 chapters in there, from barriers in your sport to that negative, that positive. I mean, yes, I do go through my little Olympic run at the end, and it pulls in every chapter to prove I use this on my Olympic race day. So yeah, I mean, I'm super proud of it. I've got amazing reviews from it, from all walks of life, from businessmen that have read it and like, oh, I bought it for my son, but actually I'm taking it to work with me. Like football kids who have read it and are like, oh my goodness, I'm taking it in my bag in my changing room and I'm going to share with some of my teammates and how we can work better together. You know, a little bit of everything.
So what about nerves then? It's one of the things that I read as I picked that up 2 minutes ago. How do we learn to deal with nerves? What's the trick?
Well, I think it's, why have you got nerves? Is it because you haven't prepared? Is it because you're not ready?
Everything makes me nervous.
Why do you have life?
Is it life? Is it because you're thinking of the other competitors?
Too much Top Boy fan.
So I think it's sort of that self-awareness. Okay, well, why have I got these nerves? You could write them down in a list. Okay, how am I going to deal with it? Or is it, I just need to take that deep breath at the start. Do some box breathing. Imagine.
I'm such a fan of box breathing. Talk us through box breathing for anybody listening are watching who's never done it.
I've never done it, so
oh
I'm
my
going to hear
gosh,
from
it is my
great
go-to.
little technique. So first of all, you can shut your eyes if you wish.
Okay.
Draw a box.
Shut
your eyes.
Should we do it now?
Yeah.
Let's do it now.
Okay, so make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
Draw
Do
a
you do it up
box
to your
in
third
your
eye?
head.
I don't want it to sound too
No, I
spiritual.
actually don't bother.
Do you pull your pelvic floor up? Right, for you're watching, men have a pelvic floor as well.
No,
Okay, fine. Can I just quickly throw this in, because this to me is the most powerful bit of it. As you're breathing in, pull everything up through your pelvic floor up into a spot between your eyebrows. That's your PowerPoint. That's where I focus all my energy.
Might be a bit advanced for me.
No, it's really not. It's really not. So that's what I do in the breathe in and hold it up there. Anyway, Amy, sorry, take over again.
But otherwise, I imagine I'm breathing up the side of the box. You can do it for whatever count. Count for 2 or count for 3. If you're more advanced and you've got big deep breaths, count for 6, let's just say. But let's count for 4. Mm-hmm. So you breathe in for the count to 4, and I imagine my finger going up the side of a box. I hold for the count of 4 as I go along the top of the box. I breathe out for the count of 4. And I hold for the count of 4.
Anybody listening to that noise, that's all
that's all I'm reading my
So for me, that is as simple as it goes. Yes, you can do all these other techniques at the same time, but I just imagine myself drawing a box. You might only start with 2 breaths, 2 breaths, and you might work up to even 7 or 10 for the count. And it's just a way to just recenter, refocus. By the time you've done that, you're not thinking of your other competitors. You've got into a calm state just before you dive into the swimming pool, just before you step out onto that netball or that football pitch.
Before you give that speech
can do
at
it,
work.
whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Well, it's a technique that's known to be used by Navy SEALs. And I will use it to calm down in a situation, but actually I use it to fire up as well.
Right.
So in my day job, it's not a usual day job, but we might need to channel some adrenaline to perform well, or some nerves even. Not nerves necessarily, but I sit here in the studio that we're talking in and I watch bike racing for like 5 or 6 hours a day. And then we've got a studio discussion at the end of it. And if you're sitting down for a long time, it can make you really lethargic. So I pop off to the loo, I'll time on my watch, I'll do 5 minutes of box breathing. By the time I come out, I'm so focused and energized and pumped from it because I've channeled that into it. That's what I want to get out of it. I don't know if my performance is any better, let's be honest, but I find it really powerful.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad we've got to the bottom of what you're doing in the toilet. Out of interest,
For 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of interest, when you were going back over all of the old things that you'd written and everything else, was there anything in there that surprised you again, or you reread and went, it's amazing. Why have I not been thinking about this recently?
Oh, crikey.
Or did you basically, have you managed to maintain everything you did as an athlete through into your civvy life?
No, I think you use things at different times and then you forget about it. I chatted to someone the other day and oh my goodness, why didn't I even put that in the book? Can't remember what that is now. But
That's why you
realised I've completely forgotten, but that was an amazing part. But hey, you can't put everything in, and something that I've used every day of my life since learning about it, and this was almost back in 2004-05 at the start of my skeleton career, was we did a workshop in skeleton about learning each other's different colour personalities. And I've got this in the book. So it has lived with me every day of my life. So you're learning, there's lots of different ways of learning about people's personalities, but there's 4 different colours with this certain technique. You're a yellow, sunshine yellow, you're very bubbly sunshine yellow. There's a blue person who is very cool, calm, but very analytical, needs to know the facts and figures and numbers. There's the green person, very emotional, sensitive, and there's the red person who's very fiery, to the point, demanding.
I knew that was coming. As soon as the word arrows,
do you know what?
I responded in the way that I didn't want to respond in as well, because I was just waiting for your head to turn.
Do you know what I did?
As soon as fiery was said, they turned to me. And I was waiting for it.
Actually, it's because I ran out of colours and I thought I haven't done it yet and I've got to put him on the spot.
But you've got to do it.
But I thought fiery and red hair is too obvious. But
yeah,
you've proven your colouring.
But you basically work out what you are consciously and subconsciously. You can have a little bit of all those colours, or some people are just really one and none of the other. And I remember doing this, and I'm massively green.
So what's green? Emotional?
Emotional. Quite a lot of yellow, 0 red, and very little blue.
Wow.
As an athlete, I had to learn to be more blue. But for me, the stats, the figures, the numbers, the number crunching and data to do with everything wasn't really my interest. I'd just say coaches tell me what it is that I need to improve on. I'll do my video analysis, but You do all the facts and figures and numbers. And I'm horrific at numbers and figures. It's not me. Everyone presumes I'm red because you're a competitor and you're an athlete. I have no red in me. I am not that person. So for me, I knew what I was in the team. And there was a particular guy in the team who was absolutely no green, all red. So technically we are opposites and we can really clash. Yellows and blues are opposite and can clash. But you then learn, okay, well, how do we speak to each other? How are you today? Tell me about your day. The red person doesn't want to know about that. He's not going to say, how are you today? How's your feelings?
No. So that's the first thing I say to you every time.
So then you learn, actually, or like in the office, I will maybe just do one line, how are you? Here are my bullet points, because you're a blue person and a red. You just need me to the point, bullet point. Thank you very much. No more. If you know you're speaking to a yellow and a green person, I can be a bit more fluffy. Hey,
so you don't assume that the other person is like you, essentially, which is what we all do. We tend to judge somebody's response by how we would respond.
So as soon as you know, and within, let's just say you're in a football team, as soon as you know he's green, he's yellow, he's a bit of both, he's that, now we know how we can work together as a team. Or my coach, for example, let's just say is very blue and red. There's another coach who might be a bit more green. So I might go to the green person to ask a little bit more help because I don't feel comfortable going to the red person. That person can chat to him. And all of a sudden you are very aware. So I can summarise people quite quickly in their colours and I know, how do I speak to you then? Or me and my husband joke all the time because he is definitely Mr. Red Blue and I'm very green, yellow. And so we joke because he needs the facts, figures, numbers, data, where are we going, where's the map, well, we do, like all the military. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, like, the scatty side. Oh, we've just got to be there by 3. Well, how are we getting there? Where's the date? Where's the address? Oh, I'll find it in a minute. But then you muddle because his strengths are definitely what I don't have and you can be vice versa. Equally, you can clash quite a lot because I'm way too scatty for him and he's too, to the point. But then you need both. So I think, that's something for me. I think it's in the teamwork section, for example. Learn to work better together and how do you communicate better? And communication means that you can either be a better coach, a better athlete or a better teammate, whatever it might be.
Just a better person, I guess. You become more emotionally aware of other people.
Well, I think what you're saying as well is probably treat everybody individually and understand that person. And by doing so, you can first of all connect on a level with them and you're probably going to have a far better relationship, whatever that might be.
Totally.
When you go to work, when you go to the gym, whatever it might be, in order to have as harmonious environment as you possibly can. Do you think that's probably one of the things that you've taken away from your career going into now being, again, I keep referring to it as a civvy, but I mean, it's
quite appropriate to an army wife.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I'm a military wife. He always calls me, civvies. I think it's all those skills that you can take away. I know for example, I can be really blue when I need to be. Hence, I've prepped bags. I'm on it. I'm rigid with my time and schedules because I have to be sometimes. Out of choice, I wouldn't be, and that's why I feel like I'm scatty as well. Because when I don't need to be structured, I'm not. Tell me tomorrow you're flying to Paris and pack your bag in 5 minutes and I'm there, but I think it does make you realise, again, all these skill sets that you can shift and change into different environments, whether that's being a mum, whether that's TV presenting, whether that's, being a friend, whatever it might be, you've got all those different strengths and you can pull in on different friends. I need this person in my life at the moment because they're like this, and I need that person to just knock some sense in me, and I need, this other person because they're really great at organising. My one friend, she's got quite a lot of blue, and we're like, yeah, you organise the family holiday, with 2 families, we meet up. You do it all, we'll just pay the money. It's like, you've dealt it, you're happy, fine, we don't care. So all of a sudden, with everything, you can merge and just all of you can be then better people, better humans. And that's what it's all about. Better performance in your life, in family, in relationships, whatever it might be.
Better humans. That's what it's all about. I like it, Amy. And I like as well how that depersonalizes things a little bit. Instead of blaming somebody for being too much of this or too much of that we're not. Just accepting they are who they are and recognizing your own strengths and possibly weaknesses, but knowing yourself, which is so powerful, isn't it? Yeah. Amy Williams, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy. And you've got 3 books to read before tomorrow, so I've got to let you go.
Yeah, good
because
luck.
you're super organised and you're doing so much. So congratulations on living such a full life. It's amazing to see.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, Greg, when we finished that chat, we had a good old look, didn't we, at our colours? And we reckon we're probably actually quite similar. Amy is very good at diagnosing people. Jeez. Diagnosing is probably the wrong description, but she said that she thinks I am like a core of red, which is fiery, and I can't remember the rest of it. I should look at the book.
Yellow.
Fiery is the main takeaway. But with a veneer, I think, of yellow. I've got a sunny, energetic bubbliness, but she thinks that deep down it's actually a fieriness at my core.
Darkness. I think
they
were the words. They were the words that
I actually said I've got a darkness, got a bit of a dark soul, which I try to hide. But she sort of put you in a similar category.
Yeah.
Think that's fair enough?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really understand it fully, so I'm just going to go with, I think that's about right.
Just going to agree for a change.
I am, yeah.
That's quite nice. Yeah. But with a bit of green as well, a bit of emotion she put with you.
Apparently I had a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Oh no, not much blue though, to be honest.
No,
anyway, I suggest everybody gives it a go and actually finds out what they are, because it's genuinely fascinating.
I find it really interesting. And I actually was discussing this morning the Briggs-Meyer personality test. Have you ever done that one?
A long time ago.
It is scarily accurate.
Yeah. But then so can like your star sign reading sometimes.
No, but I find this quite detailed. So things like, for my personality test on I need to remember what my actual letters were. But for example, apparently on a first date for me, I would choose something where I get the chance to show off, like laser tag or mini golf.
Triple jump.
And I thought, that sounds like a lot of fun actually. I haven't been on a first date in a while. But if I do happen to go on one again, maybe laser tag would be.
You now know if you're taking Orla out for a date, make sure you do something very active like laser tag. What else would you do?
Down the amusement centre. I'm a cheap
bowling?
date.
Does that count?
Oh, bowling, definitely.
Okay.
100%. Anything you get to.
Full one-on-one MMA style fight?
No, that's just a little bit aggressive.
Too far.
What would be yours? First date of choice. Go.
Yeah, mine would probably be something quite active actually. I'd probably enjoy some. I don't think just going to the cinema. So anybody who wants to take me out for a date, hit me up.
Was that your cute face? If anybody is only listening on the podcast, you've missed that cute face. Give it again. Definitely not cute. Anyway,
okay, thank you.
Amy claimed that she wasn't fiery. So we thought we'd put that to the test.
No, but that's interesting though as well. I think we have to touch on that very quickly. For somebody who's an Olympic champion to say they're not fiery, difficult to get your head around, I think.
You didn't pull her up on that. But do you not believe her?
It's not that I don't believe her, I just find it difficult. Because there's so many hurdles, so many times there has to be a lot of grit and determination, which I think is a level of fieriness. Well, it is in my case anyway. And I just feel like I think it's very difficult to do what she did as an individual sport and not be a bit fiery. So, Amy, you're a liar. No, I'm joking. No, I think some people also don't always see that fiery side of things. But
because fieriness is seen as a negative, and I don't think it is a negative.
No,
I see it as fuel and energy and drive and focus for me.
Yeah.
But I would say that because I'm red, I'm fiery. Anyway, we decided to put Amy to the test with whether or not she is actually fiery with our highly competitive latest instalment of Rock, Paper, Scissors.
what we've decided, and we come up with this brilliant plan, that we always play rock, paper, scissors at the end of every pod. There we go. Look! And
what's the twist?
There is absolutely no twist.
The only twist is that it's very competitive.
He's very competitive.
With Orla. All right, we ready to go?
Yeah.
Yes, go! You call it. You call it.
Okay, ready. Here we go.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, man! It's you two. I don't care.
Picked himself up.
No, did he? Oh, right, you ready?
Okay.
Okay, go.
Do you want me to call it?
Yes, please. Yeah, please call it.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
I'm
I'm
still
too nervous.
Okay.
It feels like
Ready?
sweaty
Yeah.
palmed.
Don't look at me.
Okay.
Look at your monster. I'm not worried
I
today.
forgot what I was going to go for.
Just go with
Okay, yeah. Go with my
Okay.
gut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rock. Right, hang on. Whoa. You both looked at me and then you went, there's proper nerves here today.
I'm actually, do you know what? I should check out my heart rate on this.
I've gone to 76. I don't know what it was before
76.
though.
I'm on
I can feel it thumping,
93.
Look at triple figures. Okay, right, okay, ready? Right, let's get it done.
He's like
Here we
Oh
go.
my, I've never seen my heart rate that high while sitting. It's gone to 94. Right, let's keep going.
Okay, ready? Don't look at me, look at each other. Just listen to the words.
Right.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh no, it's going to go wrong! We finally had a guest win! I'm so happy!
Well done.
It's the best case scenario for
That
me.
was wonderful.
If I lose,
Wonderful.
I need the guest to
very
win.
chuffed.
I'm still winning against Greg. That's amazing.
Unless we
Okay,
take money
amazing.
anyway.
Thank you.
Do I get
Thank
some
you
little
so
mini
much.
trophy
There
at
was
the end?
definitely a fire in the end. There was definitely a fire in me. You've got a little slither
I'm
of
still
red
at
in
73.
you.
I thought I was going to fire
Oh
up.
man, what was I?
I feel really shaky.
Oh my gosh.